Hey, Shirley, you want to do a sound check real quick?
Hey Shane, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. So
Okay, thanks.
you bet. Yeah, I'm going to join on my phone and head home, but I just want to make sure everything is working before I took off. So,
Shane, I didn't hear anything you said. Excuse me. Can you repeat that?
I'm on my computer now, but I'm going to join on my phone.
Okay.
So I'm in the building right now. I just want to make sure the sound and stuff work before I took off. So,
Okay, thanks.
all right. Talk to you later.
Go, go.
Mr. Daniel, could you please mute your microphone?
Okay, I'll get this September 20th Board of Education meeting. Somebody's got not muted. Roll call, please.
Kate Thomas,
Here.
Troy Carr,
Here.
Deb Baker. Here. Jim Hansen is absent with notice. Clay Hansen, or Clay Cologne. Sorry, Jamie Clappin. Here. And Michael Berkland.
Here.
And we have Dale Barchert for the invocation tonight. Please.
Let's pray. New school year. Help us engage in meaningful discussion. Allow the school board to grow closer as a group, nurture the bonds of unity between them and our community that's so desperately needed. Lord, we're meeting today to conduct matters of business, guide our hearts and our minds in a spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Thank you for being our source of protection. We pray for the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health of our schools, administration, teachers, support staff, parents, grandparents, guardians, and students, one and all. And so tonight we pray all this and so much more. In the name of the one who is the same yesterday, today, and forever, the Lord our God. Amen.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I need a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Make a motion.
Deb,
Second.
Jamie? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All right, we're on to sharing of the success. Swigert?
Thank you, President Thomas. Going with our theme this year of celebration, I've invited Paul Hendry from Stevens High School to join us tonight. If you'd like to come up to the microphone, Mr. Hendry. Jocelyn, you can join him as well if you'd like. So this year for Rapid City Area Schools, we want to celebrate something great every single board meeting. And at this meeting, I invited Mr. Hendry to come along with Principal Jocelyn Hafner to celebrate the fact that Mr. Hendry was named the NHSACA National Girls Track and Field Coach of the Year and the Class AA West Boys Track and Field Coach of the Year. So Mr. Hendry, how's the national thing happen?
You didn't tell me I had to speak.
Oh, I saw it.
Well, it's just a process over years. It was my third time being a finalist. And so, just our program has had some pretty good success over the last 20, 30 years with a lot of great assistant coaches I have, outstanding athletes, and administration and parent supports has really kept us doing well most years of the track season. And I think, that success, my involvement in the Coaches Association and, just your years, which, you get older, they look at that too. And so I think that helped. And so it was just a great tribute to, for our team, our program. And, like I said, it's not about me, it's about our program and everyone that participates along the way.
You are so kind. I would say it is about you as well as your program. I agree that Stevens High School track, both the boys and the girls programs have been outstanding. To be a head coach of a track team is a huge undertaking because you are basically making sure everything in the track world operates. And it is a huge job. So I congratulate you for this national recognition on the girls' side and the state recognition on the boys' side. I hope to see this again in the future with the national recognition for the boys' team as well, because you are amazing. So we are blessed to have you.
All right, thank you very much.
On this side, you got it.
Congratulations, I appreciate you.
All right, we are on to persons wishing to address the school board. We have enough that would go over our normal 30 minutes, so I'll just cut the time to 4 minutes, and that will bring us under the 30. First speaker, and please remember also just the guidelines here. Issues that affect individuals or particular schools need to be addressed at the schools first. And speakers should remain on point and not be repetitive. Personal matters or complaints that directly or indirectly identify an employee shall not be discussed. And to maintain a civil dialogue, threats and intimidation are not allowed. So our first speaker is Sean Nielsen.
Good evening, board. Thank you very much for your service to our community. Yesterday in Aberdeen was the first of 4 public hearings regarding the proposed social studies standards. We, the people, are speaking up. I stand before you today in opposition to these standards. I served on the 2021 work group of 44 professionals that included teachers, museum staff, 2 legislators, and community members. I also was honored to have been chosen to serve on the Governor's Revision Commission this year. This time it was 15 members comprised of 3 educators, 2 legislators, staff from the governor's office, and community members. I was the only social studies teacher on this commission. I don't intend to get into the details tonight, other than to tell you that my opposition stems from the following. A terribly flawed process, the glaring lack of key stakeholders at the table, the removal of analytical expectations, the aligning of content to the wrong grade levels, and the fact that these proposed standards originated from an out-of-state entity. The only changes the commission was allowed to make were minor rewording of some standards and adding additional South Dakota and Native American history. 3 more hearings will take place, one of which will be in Rapid City in January or March of 2023. For now, I encourage teachers, administrators, parents, and community members to review and comment on these proposed standards. Public discourse is underway. Ask yourself honestly about whether your students, your child, your grandchild can meet these proposed requirements. Thank you for your attention.
Good evening, board. My name is Florence Thompson. I'm president of South Dakota Parents Involved in Education. And I'm also a retired school psychologist with over 40 years in the schools as a psychologist. I'm also a grandmother of a public school student. I did travel down to Aberdeen to hear the social studies curriculum or revisions, and I did testify down there. So I'll read a little bit of my testimony, but before I start, I'll comment that there was an article in the journal today that was very biased, and it stated in big headlines above the fold, banner headline, main story, that the teachers and the educators are against these new standards. I'd like to point out that it is the unions that are leading the fight, the teachers union, the administrators union, and that these do not necessarily represent the rank and file. They're only around 30%, I believe, of the people that belong to the unions. And also, you know, I know some of the other, a lot of people are afraid to speak up against the union. And this was what they said, well, why aren't there teachers here? Well, they're afraid to come out. So it tells you something. Okay, at South Dakota Parents Involved in Education, we do support the new social studies standards. They are excellent. They have taken the politics out of the standards. We've been accused of being political, but actually, there's nothing more political than cultural Marxism. And that's what those former standards were. The original, well, let's see, there are 3 sets of standards that are being considered. The ones that were currently in place, which are the Common Core standards, and then the first revision, which the government threw out, they resubmitted it the other day in the hopes that the board will go for that. So the former revision, the one that was thrown out, was extremely, extremely political. And it was, in my opinion, cultural Marxism. It was a tearing down of America. It had cultural race, critical race theory in it. It had a very militant attitude toward the United States. It really wasn't something that we want our kids to have. Another complaint was that this curriculum is too hard. And, you know, when Common Core came in, all we heard was rigor, rigor, rigor. Everything was rigor. And it was so good because it was rigor. They even brought the kids up a grade so that the kindergartners were expected to do first grade work. That was not age appropriate. But now they're complaining that this is too rigorous. And they did have people come in who said, no, they've used it. It works well with kids. And homeschoolers have used it, works well with kids. So it sounds scary, but I think the way things are handled, there will be materials following that from the state that will help the teachers accomplish their goals. let's see. I do think, like I said, it's very telling that there were no teachers that felt comfortable enough to show up to advocate for the standards.
Sorry, it's time.
Thank you.
All right, next speaker, Jan Mangelson.
Good evening, board members. I would like to talk about rules tonight. Our country has a foundation of rules and laws. The rules for the public comments are read by each meeting, before each meeting. At the last meeting, a young man told us about a situation with his sister and bullying. This was very emotional and heart-rending. However, he named the principal for which he had concerns. According to the rules that were read, this should not have been allowed. What should have been done in this situation? Should any board member or school administrator interrupted this comment? I have friends and family who are teachers and staff in the Rapid City school system. They could be the next who are brought up in public for something they did or didn't do. In addition, there should be a rule about audience comments while the speaker is commenting. Thank you.
Next speaker, Forrest Cooper.
Hello, board. We all know that money is one of the many problems facing you. Our school buildings are one of the biggest of those money problems. Many need to be improved or replaced with modern facilities. A taxpayer bond issue is the ordinary way to finance building updates and replacements. However, the last bond issue was defeated. A majority of people were unwilling to vote in a tax increase. I believe that that bond issue was sold poorly, that the need and the public benefit was not made clear. A successful bond issue vote would need to be properly sold to the public. I suggest that if you decide on a new bond issue, that it include a public relations educational campaign. That campaign would show the need for building improvements before asking for a vote. This campaign would have to be specific, showing examples of current subpar buildings and the effect that they have on our students and teachers. It would include a graduated plan to upgrade or replace the neediest buildings. I would, however, be cautious in ranking buildings, as lower ranked buildings could lose support from voters in those areas. This plan could include stepped tax increases to ease the burden, if that is technically and legally possible. Finally, I suggest you hire a consultant to save money as we upgrade our buildings. I know a person that could be hired for less than $100,000 who has fresh, creative ideas to improve our building situation. Some of those ideas could save multiples of billions of dollars.
Thank you. Sarah Gross.
All right. Thank you so much, board, again, and always for taking our comments. In our last meeting, I said thank you for closing the schools, and this Monday was around 90 degrees. And again, thank you for that last week, because my second graders on the floor, it just isn't effective teaching. On the 6th, I was in the middle of a list of schools: Rapid City High School, built in 1923, Wilson in 1929, Jefferson in 1930, Canyon Lake in 1949, and then added on to. Fast forward to the 50s, and you've got Lincoln, South Park, South Canyon, Horseman, West Middle School, Robbinsdale, Meadowbrook, Pinedale, North Middle School, South Middle School, and then Grandview is 1960. Stevens High School, 1969, with multiple renovations, and then in addition to Canyon Lake. Central High School, our class of 77 would be the first graduating class there. Rapid Valley Elementary was 1985, the year before I was born. Southwest Middle School, one of our best, was 1993, along with Corral Drive. Valley View was 2004, General Beetle 2008, East Middle School 2012, and the future South Middle School in a couple of years. So I completely agree. I do think that a lot of the public supported it, and if it would have come back in June, we would have seen it pass. So I really appreciate the closure for my own health and safety and all of the things. And then now to switch topics to the social studies standards. I have a first grader and a third grader. And so thinking about these standards really affects my own children. My first grader is bouncy. If you see me in the street, you'll be like, okay, Sarah's on defense right now. And so when we think about those standards, just to read some of them directly, I'm just going to read a couple of them. This is 1SS.7. The student demonstrates knowledge of European exploration and settlement of what would become the United States. Under Part E, the student explains the history of slavery, including in ancient times and in the 15th century. If you have been around a small child, explaining slavery, whoa, explaining the 15th century, I asked some first graders this last week, like, what season is it? Because we're in fall and, you know, they've got hands popping up, and I call him this fun little boy and he was like, it's 2022. I was like, yes, it is, but that's not the season. So we're not ready for the 15th century and what slavery is. So when we're thinking about developmentally appropriateness, I think we can agree that we want everyone to understand civics. I think we can agree that we need to have some more rigor, and maybe my definition of rigor and your definition are different, but rote memorization is what's a part of these. And so the student in fourth grade, South Dakota history, this is 4SS5A. The student explains the origin of the Great Chasm of 1054. And I don't know these to be fourth grade things that are relevant. So in thinking about this, I think in our busy lives, sometimes we get caught up and we can't pay attention to the minutia, and now we really have to. And so I think it's really, really relevant that the Sioux Falls School District is working on a cost estimate for how much this would cost their district. On the other hand, in West River, our school board president and a couple of our prime public commenters were on the proponent side. And so of 707 public comments, 615 were against these standards. And so my question for you, Kate, is first of all, who in the district have you spoken to that is for them? And then have you read them? Because I cannot imagine my son remembering the preamble in first grade.
That's time.
Thank you.
And Rocky Atkinson.
Hello again. I am back tonight to discuss the special education program narrative that this board approved, which dictates this district's responsibility to their students with disabilities. I've made it to page 8 of 39. And there's some language that, to me, indicates an assumption of operating in good faith. Some examples of this language are without delay, when the team determines, when needed, when necessary, and my favorite, to the maximum extent possible. Page 3 specifically states, Rapid City Area School District, consistent with the timetable established by Individuals with Disabilities Education Act Part B and the state of South Dakota, has a goal of providing full educational opportunity to all children with disabilities aged birth through 21. Without all the legal jargon, it says that RCAS has a goal of providing full educational opportunity to all children with disabilities through the age of 21. The problematic bit becomes implementation of this good faith language. To illustrate my point, I'm going to specifically address page 3's non-academic services. So if you want to go back and look, read it, you can. Your policy states, to the maximum extent possible, RCAS will ensure that students with disabilities can participate with non-disabled peers during non-academic services, such as extracurricular activities like school dances, like sports games, like the fairs that go on at the middle school and the elementary level, okay? Meals, lunches and things, and recess. Supplementary aids and services will be provided by the district if necessary and appropriate, as determined by the child's IEP team. It sounds great, I know, sounds great. But I find it hard to believe the district is approving overtime for paraprofessionals to attend sports games and other events with these students when my staff in my classroom couldn't get paid to stay 15 minutes extra to document behavior or to complete training with me. We had been told it would be approved by Special Education Administration, and then Building Administration would deny their time cards every payday. When students from my classroom wanted to attend a middle school dance, I was forced to volunteer to support them after staff had asked if they could support them in this opportunity and were told no to the overtime. But apparently I should have been paid as a supplementary aid per your policy. Despite having so much more to talk about, and I'll be back, I'm going to stop there for now. Translating legal jargon and giving examples is very time consuming. More importantly, I really believe that we all need some time to think about and possibly act on operating in good faith. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are on to conflict of interest, and no one has turned in any waivers at this time. So we are down to the approval of the consent agenda. I need a motion.
Make a motion.
Deb?
Second.
Michael? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. On to the reports of the superintendent.
Thank you, President Thomas. In addition to just celebrating things that I'm hearing about in the district, I do want to celebrate the fact that many of the directors and the team that you see here, Mr. Sassy, Mr. Talley, and I participated in the United Way Day of Caring since the last board meeting. It was a very hot Wednesday afternoon that we spent at Storybook Island painting fences and really giving back to the community. So in addition to celebrating the fact that we were given the opportunity to do that during a Wednesday, I would also like to celebrate the United Way pulling that together. This year, they're actually doing a month of caring. So I've been seeing on various social media platforms, a lot of other agencies in the community going out and getting assigned different tasks, whether it was painting at the Boys Club or things like that. So just the United Way is always a great group to work with. I have also participated in the Joint Ventures Black Hills Superintendents Group, which was really an interesting time to get together with other superintendents in the area. And we talked about a variety of things, but one of the things that really stuck with me is we compared enrollment numbers. And I was thrilled to hear, as we went around the room, that Rapid City Area Schools was one of the few districts that is actually experiencing an increase. Many other districts were talking about being down in numbers this year, and the conversation came up from one very close district that they just were struggling to understand how we could have all of this building and all of these houses going up and lack of student numbers to go along with them. And I came back from that and I talked to Mr. Sassy and I said, and basically we said, well, we've been there, but this year we happen to be on the incline a little bit. So we're really happy about that. I met with the mayor. I think it's really important, that communication piece that I've been talking about, is to have good communication with the city as well and the things that are going on. So I will continue to facilitate those meetings. I've attended some Department of Education webinars. The Department of Education is incredibly busy right now with a variety of initiatives and work. But the one particular one on for the superintendents was very informative. And I continue to learn a lot about what my role with the Department of Education is. And I value that time to be trained by them. I've continued to work with the Human Relations Commission and the Emergent About Place. And I attended a meeting at the new OLO Center, which is up in the old Kmart Plaza. And that is a beautiful property. And we debriefed about our full day touring different native businesses in the community. But to be hosted by the OLO, which is the organization that came forth and talked to us about working with the middle school, to be hosted in their property, their area there in that plaza, it was fantastic. And I was thrilled to learn that they have a powwow every Friday that is open to the community. So I just think that they're really offering a great service, not only to our middle schools, but to our community as well. I had coffee. One of my coffee chats was with a member of the State Board of Education, and we had a really great conversation about the social studies standards. And I think that it's really powerful when we are able to have discourse and conversation with people in those roles of making those decisions. So I value and encourage others to reach out and have a voice in that. I really have felt that a big part of my job is to support all activities in the district as well. So I attended football and volleyball and am looking forward to some things this weekend. I met with RCEA and I've begun work on aligning our district priorities with the foundation and strategic planning, which, as we've talked about, I think is something that we need to be focusing on in the near future, is a new strategic plan for the district. I attended a superintendent training last Thursday and learned quite a few things, but one is that I need to put in a conflict of interest because my husband works for the school district, so you will have that on the next board agenda. I did not know things. And I would like to draw attention to the fact that Mr. Talley's office had school improvement plans due in the last week. And that is really a foundation for the work that he is doing with the principals in the schools. And those school improvement plans will be the basis of work as he and other directors go out into the buildings. And that was a big piece to get out of the way so early in the school year. This Saturday, I'm looking forward to a throwback cheer competition because they tell me that they went through old yearbooks and were surprised to see me in those coaching pictures. And they've designed T-shirts and a whole bunch of that event around throwback. I think maybe they have old T-shirt designs and maybe old uniforms, but they have invited me to be there, so I will be there. And also, it is Middle School Knowledge Bowl on Saturday, being hosted by Southwest, and that starts at 9 a.m. So there's lots of things going on. I know that the board is very interested in knowing. I think it would be really encouraging if all of our activities could be put onto a calendar for the board and the community to know what is happening. So I think we'll be working to make that happen. I know that the high schools are very good at putting that on their activity pages, but I'm not always sure that our website is very able to be navigated easily to get to those calendars. So it'd be nice if we could have a district-wide site. But I encourage the community and the school board to find out what's happening. And if you have time, even for a few minutes, I will tell you that at every event I go to, people are really glad to see higher administration there, because our high school administrators do a really amazing job of always being there, and they need the support too. Thank you.
Perfect. Any questions for her from the board? All right. We are on to other. Does anybody have an other?
I do.
yours is kind of fun, so we're gonna have you at the end. Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak regarding the social studies standards, and I wanted to mention that as board members, we are all allowed to do whatever it is that we want to do. But I do want to make clear that we don't speak for the board unless we make a board decision. Including what I'm about to say right now is not the board's decision, it is my feelings. But the first thing that I want to say is I really want to avoid this teachers versus parents discussion. Every single conversation is teachers and parents. So I'm just going to leave it at that. The other thing I want to mention, there are no Common Core social studies standards. There are standards for reading in social studies and writing in social studies, but there are no Common Core social studies standards. And then the last thing I just wanted to say was rigorous does not equal developmentally appropriate. There's a reason we don't teach calculus to kindergartners, and there's a reason we don't teach adding and subtracting to freshmen. So there is a big difference between rigorous and developmentally appropriate. So I just wanted to throw those things out there. Thank you.
Sure, Jamie?
I just want to say a couple of things. One, I appreciate getting a lot of emails and reach outs from staff, parents, students. I want to encourage people to keep that coming and just know that sometimes the response will be at 2 a.m. and that's okay. That's just when I do those things. But I did want to say I've gotten several comments and thoughts, and even from last meeting, and I'm really recognizing and feeling the concerns about bullying, and I want public to know like that is heard, and that is something that we as a board and as administration really want to address and understand that it is a huge issue for our schools, for our students, and that we recognize that concern. I did want to kind of, I don't want to necessarily say steal thunder, but I wanted to give a very specific shout out. I got a text from a parent that said, I want to tell you that the teachers at West are absolutely amazing. When they went into secure status last week, it's a little bit of an old text. That didn't happen last week. My daughter said her teacher stayed calm and talked to each student and found out what their interests were and managed to find something for each student to do that aligned with their interests to keep them calm. She said somehow he found a giant stack of origami paper and colored pencils so she could fold origami the whole time. I'm beyond impressed. Our teachers are out there doing those things, and that's amazing. And they deserve, thank you, Mr. Swartz at West. And also the bus and bus behavior issue came up, and I just wanted to say I was visiting a school this week, and creative staffing and thinking, and some of the parapros have shifted their hours to be on the bus. Some of our wonderful administrators have been on the bus. My children have seen their principal on the bus. And so parents, public, you are heard, and people are figuring out creative solutions, and I applaud those administrators for doing that.
I do have one other, well, actually 3 easy ones. I'll address the number 5 rule actually says the chairman of the board has the option to stop a speaker and edit. And I will own that. I probably should have stopped him when he mentioned the principal's name. However, what was going on in my head was it was a front cover newspaper that had already mentioned being arrested due to the principal having called. So it was public, but when it's here, it shouldn't be named. So I will own that. The social standards, I was on to speak proponently. Yes, I have been reading through them, but I was not there speaking for the board. And I noted that in the comments. My phone didn't work, so I was unable to speak at all. But what I was going to say was that we as a board maybe need to have a study session, having read the social studies, and come to our own conversation about it, especially since there are people reaching out on parents and teachers to all of us. So, and then the waivers, Mrs. Swigert, you do not need to have conflict of waiver. That is just for board members. So no worries. Go ahead, Troy.
I want to, I'll amend my other. I wanted to thank the administration and everybody in administration for all that you're doing. I'm impressed with the direction. And Ms. Swigert, you must work on a 27-hour day, because I don't understand all the things you do and staying here to midnight. I thought I was busy. I will never say that again. But thank you for what you're doing and in an interim status for all you're doing and the whole administration, this whole building. Thank everybody for doing that. My other topic was to talk about facilities, and thank you so much, Sarah, for bringing up that list of facilities. It's almost like an introduction of what I wanted to talk about. And in a couple of conversations that I've had with people in the community, I realized, number one, that everybody is wanting what's best for the kids. Everybody realizes that we need to do something with our facilities. So that's a good thing. But the other thing is, I was naive in thinking that the solution that I think was right is everybody else would think that that's the solution. And in my conversations, I'm realizing people have different ideas about what should be done with our facilities. And so I just wanted to mention that as we begin this train of maybe talking about a bond or whatever we're going to do about addressing our new facilities, that everybody is sensitive to the fact that we all don't think the same way. And I keep wanting to say that disagreement is not evil. It's not a bad thing to disagree. What is bad is when we allow our disagreement to cause us to be ineffective and not to do anything. And I think the district is at a point when you hear the ages of the building that Sarah brought up, we're at a point where we can't not do anything. We have to do something. So as we begin our conversations and we begin to talk about what to do, let's understand that we have different ideas, but at the end of the day, we need to do something, especially if we're all concerned about what's best for our kids. So thank you very much.
Perfect. All right, if there's no others, we are going to go into executive session, and I will need a motion.
So moved.
Troy and Deb. We will have no further action afterwards. We're going into executive session for SDCL 1-25-2.1 and 1-25-2.3 and 1-25-2.5. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right.